Black Etc. podcast, a podcast about how ideas and culture spread amongst Black Americans, especially outside mass media. I'm your host, Ian Youssef. My guest today is KJ Kearney, who's a South Carolina native, community organizer, food writer, educator, amongst other things. He's the creator of the James Beard award-winning Instagram account, Black Food Fridays. He's also the founder of the live Black food storytelling event, Bite the Power. And he makes the Substack newsletter, Who Made the Potato Salad? At root, KJ is a community organizer, and I mean that for real. He actually has a track record and a history and a constituency of folks who he has worked with and communities he's helped and represented. He's not one of these people who just uses that term for clout. He is a real community organizer. We had a great discussion. We talked about his successful effort to get Charleston, South Carolina to formally recognize Red Rice Day. Red rice being the South Carolina dish amongst African Americans, specifically Gullah Geechee people. So he wrote the proclamation to get that dish formally recognized. We talked about the dish red rice and its analogs in West Africa. We spoke about some of his community organizing efforts and how food can be a vehicle for politics and the uplift of his community. He detailed how and why he came up with the concept for Black Food Fridays, which is his Instagram celebrating Black food creators and businesses and urging people to support those businesses. We got into some of the benefits and drawbacks of Black commerce and what that really means in terms of power in our community. We talked about the perils of trying to build community on the internet, where everything is fleeting, where people don't own stuff, where platforms can change. And we also got into the role of social media influencers and influencing. We talked about his responsibility as someone who can, in some ways, make or break Black businesses with the type of coverage he provides. That got us into expertise and anybody with a microphone and platform being treated as an expert. So this is a really thorough discussion. And in that discussion, there's even a callback to Dr. Jared Ball, which has happened quite a bit. So we talked about maybe some of KJ's changing ideas around buying power and Black commerce. But this was a really illuminating discussion to me. I'm someone who's in the past dismissed the concept of social media influencing and had my skepticism of it. I wanted to make sure to reach out to someone doing that work who I really respected, who is a shining example of people who are doing that work the right way. I really do want to make an effort to overcome my blind spots and biases. I think talking to KJ was a really good thing for me and my own developing thought process. But beyond all of that, this was just a really fun discussion. KJ is a great storyteller. He's funny. He's just overall a good dude. I'm happy to have given him a platform, and I think you'll have a good time with this one. Today I'm here with community organizer, food writer, educator, and James Beard Award winner KJ Kearney. He's the creator of Black Food Fridays and Bite the Power. He writes the newsletter Who Made the Potato Salad? Welcome, KJ. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What is Black Food Fridays, and how did you come up with the idea?
Black Food Fridays is a call to action. The idea came from being a community organizer, working in politics, and noticing that when I needed to get people to organize around an issue, if we had food available, people would show up. We would do these postcard parties. I worked for a nonprofit that did environmental policy. And when we had these postcard parties and we brought pizza, everybody would show up. And so that idea kind of stuck with me, how through food, we can bring people together. I then went on to write the proclamation for Red Rice Day for the city of Charleston. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff that they did to my ancestors, but at the bottom of the proclamation, we talked about how great red rice was. It got approved with no hesitation, no pushback. And so that's when I started to realize that I could use food as a way to teach people, but also to get a political message out.
Since you mentioned red rice, how does Gullah red rice differ from its African analogs like jollof?
Well, number one, we as Gullah Geechee people, we are the direct descendants of the West Africans who were forcibly brought over from the west coast of Africa, which is called the rice coast of Africa, in order to cultivate rice for colonizers here in the new land, so to speak. And so what we did was we took our institutional memory and knowledge and just used the ingredients that we had available to us here to make a dish that reminded our ancestors of home. And so it is rice based. In Charleston in specific, we were using a Carolina gold rice, which was so popular at the time that it actually made Charleston the richest city during the time of the 13 colonies. And so it's basically that rice that we use. And obviously, every single ingredient did not transpose over to the New World. And if you go in West Africa, you'll see Nigerians do jollof a certain way, Senegalese do it a certain way, so forth and so on. So I would say the main difference is the access to ingredients, specifically the use of Carolina gold rice, which we were cultivating here in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. This proclamation was that 2021?
Actually, 2018.
2018.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it would have gone through today in a different climate without pushback?
Probably so. I mean, only because at least I can speak for the city of Charleston. You cannot talk about Charleston and not talk about red rice. So I believe that it would have still went through. Let me put it that way. I believe it would still went through, but you're right. Given today's political climate, who knows, man?
Right. You have expressed mixed feelings about the social media food critics, the folks who film videos in their cars, that kind of stuff. Why?
I'm not against critiques. I'm not against accountability. I'm not against people having their own opinion. What I am against is the notion that someone who has a cell phone or a podcast, no disrespect, is a subject matter expert in their field. And somehow the internet has turned it, and so the people with the most following are automatically assumed to be the most knowledgeable about whatever it is that they're talking about. And that's just not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're eating in your car and making content that way, I don't have no beef with that. Get it how you live. I just understand that in today's society, the people who have the biggest followings tend to be the people who are considered subject matter experts. I'm a Black man from Charleston, South Carolina. If I go eat some Vietnamese food and decide to turn on my camera and tell you why I think this is good or why I think it's bad, it doesn't mean that I have any expertise in Vietnamese food, right? It just means that I have a good internet connection and a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
That is my issue. It's not that people are making the content. It's that a lot of these people are not qualified. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is that, as a community organizer, I'm very attuned that my behaviors, my words can directly affect people. And because my platform is only for the uplifting of the Black culinary space, if I go on here and say, KJ's fried chicken is nasty, and then nobody goes and that business closes, that's on me. And I'm not really, I'm not willing to do that for some likes.
Yeah. One thing I do appreciate about those folks is that they mostly feature Black food businesses that never get coverage in mainstream or quote unquote foodie outlets. And I appreciate that about your work too. A lot of people in that kind of world know Rodney Scott Barbecue. A lot of them know the folks who are on TV, but I do appreciate that they will talk about stuff that is left out of those spaces.
Absolutely. I mean, and like I said, that's why I started my answer with I don't have any beef with anybody who sits in a car or does food reviews at all. I do, though, think that there is a level of rigor, an academic rigor, if you will, to the subject matter that is lacking because the access to become a quote unquote food reviewer or food critic is so low. Like the barrier, rather, is so low. And so there's no rubrics, right? Like I'm looking at same creator, give three different, let's use the fried chicken example, right? They go to three different fried chicken establishments. They give one a 6.2, one a 7.9, one a 9.1. What? Like, based on what? What is your rubric? What are you using to determine who gets what number? And that, I think, of all of it, is where I have the most difficulty accepting this food reviewer in the car thing. It's less about where they're doing it, it's more about there is no rigor to the work. So I'm just saying it's a 6.1 because I felt like it today. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could potentially destroy somebody's business if that business reached out and said, "Hey, KJ, why did you give me a 6.1? I have no data to give them so that they can improve. You are just doing this for likes, and that is potentially damaging. And that's the part of this that I don't want to participate in."
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a larger problem with folks just listening wholesale to anybody, you know?
Come on, somebody.
Yeah. I mean, I have similar problems with formal food critics, right? I won't name names, but there's a local guy here. When I first moved to the city, the DC area, he's the main guy. And I'm looking at his stuff. I'm like, nah, this ain't it. You know, he's
Mhm.
talking about ethnic food he doesn't know about. I'm like, all right, come on.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So who does that serve? That serves the media outlet, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily serve the consumer. It doesn't necessarily serve the restaurant owner or the restaurant group ownership. It serves the media outlet, because if my review is sensational enough, I will draw enough eyes, and I can use those eyes, leverage those eyes into ad dollars.
Mhm.
And again, that's just not a game I'm willing to play with the livelihood of Black businesses on the line.
Yeah. For me, the concept of social media influencing has mostly been a vehicle for like shilling for corporations and selling out and that kind of thing. Why do you think you are so unlike most influencers? And do you have any qualms about using that title?
I'll start with the latter part of the question. I have no qualms with the title. You know, it is what it is, man. We are all influential in our own way. Some people do it on camera, some people do it on the mic, some people do it in their own household, some people do it at their job, right? They're influential on their job or on their street or in their community. So we're all influences. It's just that, people like me who have decided to put their face out there for consumption, we have been able to capitalize the I in influencer and monetize that. And I don't have really any issue with that part of the game. I don't know how different I am from other influencers in the sense that up until this point, I too was trying to get brand deals. I too was trying to leverage the eyeballs that I have in my newsletter and my Instagram account in order to, have brands do deals with me, in order to have destination marketing organizations invite me to their city to create content. So in that regard, I am no different than the rest of them. I think what makes me different is where my North Star is. My North Star is the uplifting of Black people.
Hmm.
And so I'm not willing to work with a brand if at that time that brand is doing something detrimental to Black people.
Yeah.
I also understand, and I think this is because I'm a community organizer who has worked in politics, who has ran for office, that there are no clean hands in any of this, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like Target is the company that every Black person is mad with right now. Fine. Cool. But we're talking about how evil Target is while we're on Instagram, which is owned by Mark Zuckerberg, who is probably one of the most conniving, evil people to exist. Have you seen how he got the Facebook? You watched the Facebook movie, you saw how he got the company. That was nasty work, bro.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We out here talking bad about insert company, but we still have subscriptions to Amazon Prime. And we all know that Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and has now started censoring what kind of information comes of that to curry favor with the current administration. So again, if we want to pick and choose about which brands are good brands and bad brands, yeah, okay, that's fine. I think that's a good exercise at times.
Hmm.
But no one's hands are totally clean in any of this. So I try to be as level headed about this as humanly possible. I try to bring nuance to these conversations. Sometimes I get called names by my own people for trying to bring nuance to the conversation. But I mean, that's my job as an organizer. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, that's really important that you say that. I often have a problem with just the way that the concept of, quote, selling out has been rendered nowadays, right?
Mm,
So nowadays people think selling out is you just hating and on somebody who's trying to get money.
mm,
Selling out is not getting money, even getting money for a brand. It's doing something that you don't believe in.
mm,
It's changing your principles to get that money. So it's not
mm,
about getting paid by a corporation or getting paid, period. Do you have principles, and are you compromising your principles totally to get that money? So
mm.
yeah, I appreciate what you just said there.
Appreciate you. Thank you for sharing.
Earlier, you said that you're Gullah folk. You're from
Mm-hmm.
Gullah people, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is just an aside. I'm not from that region. I was taught when I was younger that Gullah was the preferred term and that the other G term was derogatory. Can you
Oh,
clear that up for me?
wow. Okay. So Gullah is the proper term and Geechee is derogatory?
That's what I learned when I grew up.
I have never heard that in
Really?
my life. Never in my life. I will say that there are people who tend to separate Gullah Geechee as like Gullah is old timey and Geechee is more contemporary,
Uh,
right? Like that is something I've heard. I subscribe to the fact that we are all one people. We are Gullah Geechee people, right?
mm-hmm.
So you can say one without the other, right?
Uh-huh.
If someone called me Gullah, I wouldn't be upset. If somebody called me Geechee, I wouldn't be upset. But when I refer to myself, especially now that I have a little bit more knowledge about my culture, I do respond as a Gullah Geechee person. That's what I tell people I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't take offense to either being called Gullah or Geechee, because especially when I was in college, we was repping Geechee, like we was Geechee.
Mm.
I do take issue, might not be the right word, but my ears perk up when I hear people like Rick Ross or Jay-Z or Wale use the word Geechee in their words, right? Like in their lyrics.
Uh-huh.
Like Jay-Z said on a Jay Electronica song that he is the general of the Geechee army. And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Mm.
I've heard Wale call himself Geechee and Rick Ross call himself Geechee. Rick Ross is from Florida, so maybe he has some Gullah Geechee in him. I don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, it don't bother me, bro.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if the negative thing or the perception came from the soldier story.
That's possible. I mean, it's very possible. But just in my lived experience, I've never felt any way about it, and I've never actually heard anybody be like, "Don't call me Geechee. That's derogatory."
That's wild.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up for me.
no problem,
What is with the fetishization of authenticity in food media?
brother. Wow, we could probably talk about this for an hour. I just posted on Threads that there seems to be this obsession with the word authentic,
Mm-hmm.
yet I haven't received anything in the way of a standardized definition for what authentic means.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that I think that maybe people are confusing or transposing authentic with traditional.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? I think that there can be traditional ways that we do things. I don't really know what the lever is in terms of considering something authentic or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a conversation that I stay out of because I haven't heard anyone give a definition that I could get behind and be like, oh, okay, that's what authentic is versus that's what traditional is. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, man.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. If you're talking about Italian food, right? If you say like authentic Italian food and you're using tomatoes, tomatoes aren't native to that area. They're native to
Mm-hmm.
South America. So they
Mm-hmm.
came later. So what are you talking about if you're saying authentic Italian food that uses tomatoes, which it's more prominent in Italian
Right,
American food, right? So it's
right.
like, what are we doing?
I think what the internet has done, it's a gift and a curse. And I think one of the curses of the internet is that words don't mean anything anymore.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
People don't read books for fun. Let me rephrase that. There's not as many people reading books for fun
Hmm.
when we're spending 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day on the internet, doom scrolling and checking email and watching YouTube videos. And so, like I said, words have lost meaning. I think it would be better to be more specific about the type of Italian, right? To say,
Hmm.
oh, this is traditional Southern Italian, or this is traditional American Italian, Jersey Italian. I don't know, Sicilian, whatever. Like, let's
Right.
use our words to be more specific versus using these blanket umbrella terms and then, trying to become the arbiter of what is or is not authentic to that culture.
Yeah. I think a lot of this is broader culturally. I think this era is kind of defined by performative populism, performative
Mm,
authenticity, and
mm,
it's all cursory. It's all just trying to signal to other people that your influence is more popular than it is, or you're trying to stolen valor
right, right.
populism or some group.
Yeah. If I may add to the whole performative thing, between me and you, or I guess I will say between me and you for now, because I will be talking about this later, and I'm sure this information will get out one day. That's the whole reason you doing this, right?
Yeah.
But I have been thinking about the performative nature of Black Food Fridays.
Mm.
I'm a community organizer. And as a community organizer, and again, someone who both worked in politics and ran for office, I've been doing a lot more research on this notion of power.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, I'm reading a book by Jared Bell, I believe his name is, called the Black Buying Power, or
The
the
myth and
myth and
propaganda.
propaganda
Yeah,
of Black Buying Power, right?
that's right.
So while Black Food Fridays does stand as a call to action, hey, on Fridays we do this, deep down inside as a community organizer, I know that is just surface level work, right? Like if there is a 10 rung ladder, that might be rung one or two.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting people on the ladder by, hey, on Fridays, if I can change your mind and change your spending habits, that is a political action.
Mm-hmm.
But political action and power are two different things. And as an organizer, one who works to give the power back to the people, or not even give back, but let the people understand that the power rests in us. My questions to myself over the last, I would say, 5 months to be specific, has been, am I actually helping Black people obtain power? And in this country, power is political. Now, you can use money to get political power, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
why people put so much money into political campaigns and advertisements and PACs and super PACs and all this other stuff, right? But at the end of the day, in this country, power comes through political change. And I have been thinking a lot about myself and my work, and am I doing enough in the Black food space to transfer all of this political action, and the action is to support Black people on Fridays, right,
Mm-hmm.
into political power for Black businesses. That's where I'm at right now. And so as I take a step back, I am thankful for all the doors that Black Food Fridays has opened. I am grateful for the awards and the nominations and the free food and the trips and the money and the brand deals and all that other stuff. But I'm about power for my people. And I am trying to figure out, how can I leverage my work as a social media influencer, as a community organizer, into actual power for Black people. So yeah, on the surface level, but I am dealing with this internally, this idea that what I'm doing, while popular and helpful, is still performative in the sense that it is not putting power into the hands of Black people. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Because I spoke over you, I want to make sure we get that title. It was Dr. Jared A. Ball's The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. And he is also a guest on the podcast. I interviewed him as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, word. Well, if you talk to him again, I'm only 3 chapters in. And this man got me reevaluating my whole life. So I
That's
appreciate
a
him for
great
writing
book.
this.
That is a fantastic book.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of power, what is Bite the Power?
Mm. Well, I mean, before I started reading this book and being a lot more introspective, Bite the Power was simply an opportunity for Black people in the food space to tell their unique Black food stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last year we did 3 events, one in Charleston, one in Brooklyn, and well, we really did 2 events. We planned 3, but we did 2. The one in Toronto bombed. But It's like TED Talk, but for Black people in the food space. So they get 8 minutes, because eight is a play on eight and food, to tell their unique Black food stories. And those events have gone gangbusters, bro. Like they have been greatly received. And so now going forward, again, with this new mindset, my ideal is I want to keep providing a space for Black people to tell their food stories. But again, now it's like, how can we take those stories and turn it up a notch and turn that into political power? So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. But on the surface, it's an event that you can come to and listen to Black people in the food space tell their Black food stories. We are actually trying to take this back on the road again. But, now I got to figure out, how can we get that political impact portion to go along with the storytelling?
How do you ensure that the work that you're doing, the connections you're building among Black food folks persist, even if platforms change?
Oh, because I understand fully that the internet is not real. And so I use the internet as a tool to meet other Black people in the space doing the real work and building genuine relationships with them. So if this year, by the end of this year, let's say Instagram blows up, that'll suck. I mean, I have 217,000 followers, but the relationships I have with Maurice and his wife at Coffee Black in Memphis are real. And the relationships I have with Rodney Scott is real. And his cell phone numbers still work. And you know what I mean? So I use the internet as a way to, yes, get my ideas out and try to change minds about how they spend money. But I also use it as a way to make sure that my Rolodex is more valuable every day. Every year, I want my phone to be more valuable than the year before because of the contacts that I have and the people that I have access to. So that's how I feel as if I'm making sure that my business is quote unquote internet proof. And when I say internet proof, like I said, this year, Instagram might be popping. Next year might be a new app. The year after that might be a new app. It doesn't matter the app. What matters is the relationships. And because I'm an organizer, I feel like I'm really, really good at that part. And that will help me sustain no matter what the internet does 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Right on. What do you think needs to happen for there to be more innovation in the U.S. Black food space?
Somehow we have to make it so that this is another curse of the internet. People are afraid to fail, and they are afraid to try new things. The internet has made it so that nobody wants to host Thanksgiving at their house. Nobody wants to have cookouts. Nobody wants to have, potlucks, because they're afraid that someone's going to go on the internet and give them a negative review, even though this is not their full-time business. The internet has allowed us to see more, but in many instances is keeping us apart. We're not getting up with each other in the real world like we used to. Like with my parents, when I was a kid, man, I'm 42 years old. When I was a kid, man, we was at cookouts and, I'm in Charleston, so we had crab cracks and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All the time. And even now as an adult, it is not uncommon for a friend to call me and be like, hey, you want to eat crabs? Or we don't say crab. We don't put the S on it. We call it crab. But you want to eat crab? And I'm like, absolutely, I want to eat crab. Let's come on. So for me, we have to find a way, one, to get people to be willing to gather together and create together. And two, if you do decide to put it on the internet, we need to create a space where people are allowed to try new things and fail and try again and fail and tweak and fail. And you know what I mean? Until we get to a point where, oh, okay, this is dope. Let's everybody do this thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine the first person who decided to puree sweet potato and put it in a pie crust, right? The first person who did that, somebody was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sweet potato and pie crust, that's insane, right? Until they did it, and then it was like, oh, this is awesome. So we just need more room to explore and experiment. Octavia Butler said in her parable series that God is change, and you can either be molded by God or you can mold God. And so in that instance, right, change is inevitable. Change is the only constant in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can either allow change to mold us into creatures who are afraid of innovation, or we can mold change so that we create a world where innovation is expected, or if not expected, at least praised and not vilified. We don't live in that world yet. And I think the internet is the biggest culprit.
Yeah. Now we get to the portion of the questions that I ask every guest. First, what songs got people on the dance floor when you were going out dancing at your peak?
Brother, I can tell you without hesitation, the very first song that comes to my mind is Shake It Like a Dog by Cain and Abel, old school No Limit artist.
Really?
Oh, bro, my freshman year in college, first of all, in high school, I was and still am, but in high school, I was a complete nerd. The only thing that saved me was I was really good at football, but I was a quarterback. I was the captain of the football team. I was a quarterback,
Okay.
but I was in the French club. I was in the yearbook club. I was in the We the People Constitutional Debate Club. I was a grade A certified nerd. So I didn't get a whole lot of play. I didn't get beat up or anything because I was good at sports and I made friends, but I wasn't getting no play. Bro, my freshman year in college, bro, somebody played that song. I knew the song because, I grew up a No Limit fan. Somebody played that song. I'm not going to say her name because, I don't have permission to use her name. But this young lady who I'm still friends with to this day threw that ass in a circle on your boy, and I was forever changed. I was like, is this what college is like? This is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the first song that comes to mind. But I would say the quintessential song would be also from New Orleans, Juvenile, Back That Thing Up, or
Of
Back That
course.
Ass Up. I don't know if you're ready, if you're allowed to curse, but I done did it anyway, so whatever.
Of course. Yeah. What is a black cultural work that's a classic but is underappreciated? Any genre, any medium.
That is a classic and is underappreciated. I think I'm going to use some recency bias, if you don't mind.
Sure.
But I don't think people talk about Atlanta, the show that Donald Glover did, with the level of reverence that it deserves.
Yeah.
I think that show we talked about innovation earlier, right? I think that show created a brand new blueprint for other Black creatives to follow. The first season was very formulaic, right? But by the time they got to the final season, every episode didn't connect to the episode before. You know what I mean? And there were completely new stories being told every single episode, yet the overall thesis of the show was still intact.
Yeah.
I think 10, 20 years from now, people are going to be looking back at Atlanta as a seminal point in, I would say, modern Black creativity as it relates to modern media consumption. That show is underrated. It should have won every award it was ever eligible for. And that is a hill I'm willing to die on.
I would say the barbershop episode is probably one of the best things that's ever been on TV. I would say the same thing about the Southside episode the retro one when my boy had the dreads, his hairline was pushed back.
Yes. I mean, listen, if we're talking about shows that are unheralded, Southside should be on that list. That show was outstanding. And even though I'm going to give one more shout out, even though this show was not a Black show, a Black woman wrote this episode with Aziz Ansari, Master of None. The Thanksgiving episode was one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. And Lena Waithe deserves all the credit in the world for writing or co-writing that episode because it was masterful.
You know what? My wife told me the exact same thing. I have not watched the show yet, but she told me that exact same thing.
The show is outstanding, period. But that episode in particular, I could watch that over and over and over and not get tired.
Yeah. What particular dish did your family make that you looked forward to the most or still look forward to?
That's a good question. I hope you don't think of this as a cop-out, but different family members were known for different things. So there was no one signature Kearney dish or one signature Brown dish. It was like My mama's seafood stuffing or dressing was and still is top tier.
Mm,
My little brother is really good at making sweet potato pie. My
mm,
sister's pound cakes, untouchable, right? My father's stewed turkey wings. Come on now, give it
yeah.
to me. My Aunt Shirley, may she rest in peace, she was the red rice woman in our family. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so different family members in my mind, right? Different dishes are associated with different family members.
Nice. Well, KJ, thanks for joining me. Where can folks find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me via Substack right now. Who Made the Potato Salad is my newsletter. Please subscribe. Join the 12,000 other people who have subscribed. Currently on Instagram, you can follow Bite the Power if you want to. I wouldn't do it. I would follow, though, Instagram Black Food Fridays. Make sure you put the S on the end. I'm not on Twitter. I have a Threads. I don't know if people use Threads, but those are primarily, I would say, the Who Made the Potato Salad newsletter and Black Food Fridays on Instagram.
Excellent. Again, thanks for joining me. Hope we can do it again soon.
My pleasure, dude.
I want to thank my guest again, KJ Kearney, for an enlightening, fun discussion. You can find him on Instagram at Black Food Fridays. Don't forget the S on the end. His Substack is Who Made the Potato Salad? No spaces. And also be on the lookout for his live event, Bite the Power. The most applicable lesson I learned from this discussion is that the most important thing about building community online is not the followers, is not the platforms, is not likes or anything like that. It's relationships. The way KJ put it was the internet is not real. And by that, he meant something that I've said multiple times, which is that you cannot rely on existing platforms, technology, or anything to preserve culture. We've seen many times things end on a corporate whim because it has no inherent meaning or value to them other than a bottom line. So they're not providing this stuff for your benefit. You've seen it time and time again. Archives, comment sections, whole user bases erased. Years of content, creative work can be deleted or disappeared just like that. So the important thing is to find and maintain relationships with people that you can carry, because the platform is not the thing that matters. It's the people and the work that matters. Second lesson also pertains to the internet. When we were speaking about how people don't want to host anymore, people don't want to try different things because they're scared of getting roasted online. So social media and the internet has an immense power to connect people you don't know, but it also has immense negative power. And I think we've all seen that, especially over the last, say, 10 years or so. It can distill down the worst impulses of people and spread them until you have, as the internet meme goes, two dumb blanks telling each other exactly. And finally, even though this isn't so much necessarily a cultural takeaway or something that I can immediately apply, but it's good to reiterate that there's no such thing as clean hands. And systems where various powerful entities, be they government, corporate, or whatever, have entrenched power and control over many aspects of society, everybody is complicit in some way. There's nobody who's pure. In many cases, you cannot work outside these systems. And so critique has to take that into account, especially when you're dealing with people who are and can be self-righteous, myself included. You have to give people some measure of grace because, again, everybody is implicated in some way or another in some of these systems, and no one can really escape unscathed. I really do hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did. As always, it would be great for the show if you can subscribe, rate, review, like, tell your friends, send links, visit the website blackedcpod.com, and I would love to hear from you actually. I've been getting some emails. I certainly welcome any feedback and would love to hear from folks who are enjoying the show and or who have some suggestions for guests. Thank you for listening. Until next time.